This video is sponsored by you. Links to support the channel are in the description. Hello there, Arknights most hated YouTuber here. Once again making a video about another video about other videos. Specifically plus minus's recent video about CN Reuploaders. I'd go as far as to say it is a required watch before this one. In fact, I suggest you stop watching this video and go watch pluses. My AdSense be damned. For your convenience, the link will be in the description and pinned comment. For those of you who decided to stick around, I must preface this by saying I am a bit sick, and not the kind of dogs on skateboards, the illness type of sick. I feel I have recovered enough to record something, but if I sound odd, that's why. Plus, focuses on the shady practices of the CN Reuploaders, exposing their outright lies and showing that they are fully aware of what they are doing. And that is trying to profit off of other people's work. In this video, I aim to explain the psychology behind CN Reuploading, the why it happens, both from the perspective of the reuploader and of the consumer. Keep in mind, I do not agree with any of the positions outlined hereafter. I am merely here to explain them. Another annotation is that the creator Yang is fully exempt from everything that will be discussed from this moment onward. Plus Minus has provided me with evidence that they are not monetized, and that they ask permission from each CN creator to re-upload their content. If you really want to consume CN-made content, I urge you to subscribe to their channel, and make them your go-to source for it. The link is in the description and pinned comment. First, let's discuss the specimen of the CN Reuploader. Why do they do this? What is the goal? Are they stupid? Yes. In Plus's video, it is argued that CN Reuploaders aren't that good at all. They are extremely shady and do it for ulterior motives, mainly monetary ones. Not just that, but they make a conscious and continuous effort to pass as legit. ROKETTOR lied about getting permission from the original CN creators, lied about not being monetized, and Crimson Rose made a purposeful effort to replace the audio in some videos so they could monetize them. These people lie so often, I wouldn't be shocked if they said their mother is very proud.
I hold the Guinness World Record for the person who's worked on the most
Bilibili re-uploads
in their life. My mother's very proud.
The videos are also clickbaited to the 9th circle of hell, with the majority having explicitly sexual thumbnails to attract as many gooners as possible. The monetary intent behind these uploads is simply undeniable. This gives us a baseline motive for CN Reuploading. It's the cold, hard cash involved. But why, then, is reuploading a fruitful monetary strategy? I'll use ROKETTOR as my example. The first thing we have to examine is the sheer frequency with which they are able to push out content. You can watch Dark Viper AU's series on React content to have this explained better, but let's say there are 10 CN animators, that each spend a week to produce, animate and voice act a single video. ROKETTOR can swoop in, download all 10, and aggregate all of them on his channel, where the singular creator making the content can only upload once a week. ROKETTOR gets to upload every day, multiple times a day, because there is much less effort put into each upload, just a translation of a usually rather short video, often not exceeding 2 minutes or even a minute. Keep in mind, there isn't just 10 CN animators to steal from, there is hundreds. This makes it so CN Reuploaders can have a content frequency that could be matched only by an army of creators. The money-making strategy should now be obvious. The aim is to spam the algorithm with as many uploads as possible so that something eventually will get picked up and do good numbers. When you glance over their channels, you may see most videos have pretty low views, but that doesn't matter. When you can push out so much content, even if nothing gets picked up by the algo, you still made a decent chunk of change. Summed up, the views are more than your average Arknights channel can get in the same amount of time. In other words, these are what you may call content farms. But it's not the only reason. You may be wondering why people opt for this as their strategy. Isn't it more fulfilling to create your own content? To see your creation flourish? Well, you needn't look any further than Crimson Rose's 100 pools with 100 accounts videos to see what these people would produce of their own merit. Horribly edited and painful to watch videos that showcase perfectly why these guys opt to steal instead. Because they are creatively bankrupt and hopelessly untalented hacks. And don't be mistaken, these people know what they are doing. CN Reuploading is kind of the perfect scam. You see, there is a fundamental problem with reality. Stealing will always be more cost efficient and time efficient than producing something. It's just easier to take than it is to create. Not only that, on the surface it appears as if everyone wins. CN uploaders get their content spread to global people get to see that content, and the reuploader gets some profit. It's only when you look below the surface that you see the plagiarism adjacent non-consensual intellectual property infringing theft that is happening here. So, with all of this laid out, it is pretty self-evident these people are parasites on the content space. There is no soul, they are shady, and painfully obviously only do it for the money. So why do I have this fucking goober in my comment section of my video about shouting out actual creators recommending ROKETTOR? Let's move on to part 2 of this video, the consumer. You are watching this right now. Why are people fine with this? Why do they watch it? Why is this allowed to happen? Is there a lore reason why they sit down and watch this perfectly engineered content slop? Are they stupid? After all, it is very important to note that the CN Reuploader would be nothing without the consumer. The money comes from the views, the ads fed to the watchers like a mama bird. Without the consumer, the CN Reuploader loses the monetary incentive that drives the whole damn operation in the first place. Luckily for them, there is a vast array of psychological reasons why a consumer may choose to engage with their stolen content. Let's start with the most self-evident and obvious one. People just wanna watch the silly animations. Not only that, this is content that otherwise wouldn't be accessible. The CN and the global Arknights fanbases are divided by the Great Firewall of China, and for many people, going beyond the firewall isn't the easiest task in the world. The CN Reuploaders provide simple access to content that otherwise they wouldn't even be able to see. So one may ask, how else are you supposed to consume this content? There's also a language barrier, just to add insult to injury. This is all then compounded by the recent content drought in the Arknights global space. Arknights is far from a dying game, but many big names in the content creation space quit, leaving a power vacuum. CN Reuploaders can feel it for the average viewer. When put like this, one could argue that the only quote-unquote real issue with CN reuploading is the intent of the reuploader. They are shady people doing shady things. So what is so special about the act of CN reuploading itself? If it is inherently bad, that fact should stay true even without shady intentions. Fortunately, it does stay true even without the shady intent. CN reuploading very often goes against the consent of the original CN uploaders, thusly infringing on their intellectual property. And that is just true. So, why does no one care? Why doesn't the consumer give a f that the content is stolen without consent, clickbaited to hell, and posted for pure monetary gain off of the hard work of others? This is a bit more subtle. First, let's pay attention to some of the more popular arguments as to why you shouldn't watch CN reuploads as a consumer. They are posted by shady people with no passion, they are lazy, you should watch actual global creators instead, they are posted without consent, they are content farms, and it's the right thing to do. You may have noticed the through line amongst all these statements. None of these are real, concrete motivators. You are fully appealing to the morality of the viewer. And when the content is not accessible otherwise, that is a very hard sell. People will simply not deprive themselves of content they enjoy for a nebulous and vague right thing to do, especially in the current content drought. Fact of the matter is that the needs of the consumer outweigh the needs of the creator. The average consumer doesn't care about the sourcing and production of the product. It's why, for example, AI art is so widely accepted and welcomed. If you go to Twitter, you might think AI is the enemy of mankind, universally hated, but a single pixiv browse will prove that the average Joe is in love with this shit. That's a topic for another day, but the same concept applies to CN reuploads. The average Joe doesn't care, like how they just want the pretty artwork for a character that otherwise no human artist would ever give a shit about. They also just want the funny little animation. Exploitation has become an accepted factor of consumption, which is why most people overlook all of this. Your food comes from inhumane slaughterhouses, your clothes from sweatshops, your smartphones from underpaid children, your artworks from robots, and your content from theft. Ultimately, none of it matters. Your belly is still full. You are clothed. You have a smartphone. Your Arknights porn folder has at least tripled, and you got a chuckle out of the goofy animation. When you combine the normalization of exploitation with the fact that the consumer is inherently individualist, you have created a perfect breeding ground for mass-produced stolen content farms to flourish. This is a sad reality, don't get me wrong. Again, I am simply explaining the viewpoints. I don't necessarily agree with them. I am also not saying this is the only option. There are better avenues out there to take. Going vegan, getting your products only from humanely sourced brands, commissioning a real artist, watching original global content, but it is simply impossible to defeat CN Reuploading because of all that was outlined in this video. So what can we do? We could aim for coexistence with the CN Reuploaders rather than eradicating them, for one. Plus Minus talks about a project called Call of Wimania, a Discord for global creators of all kinds to come together and help one another. If it works, it'll be great. We can focus on ourselves, improving our own content. Focusing on coexistence will allow us to flourish, rather than spend energies on a war lost from the start. However, there are some obvious pitfalls with this. For one, this does nothing to help the CN creators, essentially leaving them in the dust. Secondly, it could have the opposite effect, and make this a sort of arms race between us and the Reuploaders. Alternatively, we could appoint a Herald of sorts, like Yang. Someone who is not monetized and uploads CN content with express permission from the creators. One could argue CN content theft is similar to content piracy in the way that both are driven by lack of accessibility. This would solve that issue. It would make the CN content accessible through ethical means. In theory, if it is true that CN Reuploading is only thriving for lack of accessibility, this solves everything. This approach has an evident glaring flaw. For one, we have such a Herald already, and it's clear they are being drowned out by the content thieves, who are able to upload much more frequently and flood the algorithm. And secondly, from the consumer's point of view, there is no tangible difference between Yang and ROKETTOR. We know the difference, but it's all behind the scenes stuff. For the consumer, both channels provide the same content in the same way, with the difference that Yang does it considerably slower. Any solution we could come up with has some flaws, as this is an extremely layered and complicated issue. However, this is not a reason to give up. I urge you to enter the Call of Wimania Discord, link in the description and pinned comment. Support your local global creators. You can check out this video for some of the more worthwhile ones, and also check the comments of that video since people were recommending a lot more. And sub to our Herald Yang. Again, please check out Plus Minus's video if you haven't yet, even if it is just to read the comments, since people are actually discussing possible solutions there. And that's all for now. Max out your Gummy. Bye. Hi, welcome to the outro, the place where we do the outro. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all of the channel members on screen right now. Special thanks to Como to Brazil, The Crazy Lord, New Takoyaki, Noobpo, Lord Takeo, Good Old Leon, Maxio Says, and Chromejan but JJF. The end is coming.
One after the other, over and over again, I wish I knew pendulum. World I left that can't reach like that. can't find with access to the back of my